Tokay geckos. They're a super underrated species of gecko, known for a nasty stereotype, however turning out to be an absolutely incredible species to own. For those that want to take the plunge into that experience of owning Tokay geckos, of course the first thing you need to do is learn how to care for them. Exactly what we are going to be doing today, going over the 5 main care topics, that being the enclosure size, heating and lighting, the humidity for the Tokay gecko, the diet for the Tokay, and then lastly, what to fill the enclosure with. So stick around while we dive into everything you need to know about caring for this gecko right here. Let's get into it. Brother! Things off, let's start with topic number 1, what enclosure size you need for a Tokay gecko. Now when it comes to the enclosure size for a Tokay gecko, we need to talk about what size the animal is. Something like an adult right here, we are gonna put in... Why are you being so weird today? Something like an adult Tokay right here, we're going to be putting in a different enclosure than what you would do for a fresh hatchling. We'll be splitting this up into 2 main categories, that being the baby size enclosure, the grow out, and then lastly the adult enclosure. I guess that is 3, not 2. Good math, Dakota. First things first, let's talk about the baby. Now when you get a fresh hatchling, it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks old, depending on how long the breeder keeps the animal with the parents before departing them to your home. My babies to have a grow out enclosure when they're separated from the parents, I like giving them somewhere between an 8x8x12 enclosures. These acrylic ones that I have found are absolutely fantastic for the Tokay geckos. They absolutely love them. It's a space where they're going to feel safe and secure, have no problem finding their prey, and is used as a temporary setup to get them to grow as fast as you can. However, they're not going to spend very long in the 8x8x12. It's with that being said that we'll be moving them into a larger enclosure, that being the 12x12x18. This is where a juvenile to subadult Tokay will be housed until it gets to this more adult size, at which point we'll be moving it into its final enclosure. I like the 12x18 for an intermediate size. It's great for about a year to a year and a half, depending on how fast your gecko goes, your diet, your heating. There's a bunch of requirements that triggers the growth of reptiles, so we'll just keep that in mind somewhere around that time period. It's called a grow out enclosure for a reason. They're not going to stay that small forever, and soon you will have the world's, oh, I am so sorry, the runner-up for the world's largest gecko. Sorry Tokays, Lychees beat you to it, but you're still a pretty impressive size. Now getting into the adult size of enclosure, I recommend nothing smaller than an 18x18x24 for one or a pair of Tokay geckos. That seems to be about the minimum size. However, we do like to go a little bit bigger personally over here. That is with the enclosures you can see right behind me, which also happens to be today's sponsorship, Zen Habitats. Zen Habitats makes absolutely incredible enclosures, like the one right there, or the one right there, or the one right there, or the one right there, there's gonna be even more over there soon, but we'll have to stick around to find about that. Absolutely love the 2x2x2 cubes that they make. They are perfect for any of my larger geckos like the Leachianis and the Tokays. It's absolutely amazing. I love the PVC. I honestly, I don't like using glass. It's heavy, it's got the screen, it doesn't hold humidity very well. These are gonna be a much better option overall for your reptile. What I really enjoy about Zen Habitats is the fact that they're putting the animal first with their enclosure size, which is why the 2x2x2, which is meant for your smaller geckos like the Tokay, cresteds, gargoyles, anything like that, that's the smallest enclosure size they have. But as I always say, when adult established animals, bigger can be better. Why they have a multitude of different sizes, the 2x2, the 4x2, the 2x2x4, the 4x2x4. Check out this monstrosity of enclosure. Absolutely fantastic. Cherry on top of this amazing enclosure is the fact that they are going to have free shipping and fast shipping. No more with enclosures like that one down there. Well, you'll be waiting 6 to 7 months to have it. I forgot I bought this enclosure by the time I got the notification that it was shipping. Unacceptable. Ridiculous. At Zen Habitats, you can expect their in-stock items to be shipped out by the week you will have that enclosure. That means you place your order on Monday, you're gonna have it the same week. That's how we should have when we're excited to build a brand new home for our animals. If you guys want to check out Zen Habitats or potentially get an enclosure for yourself, if you use the link I have down in the description, your boy does get a small cutback. I very much appreciate it. It helps us do everything we're doing with our animals, keeping them the way we do. Thank you so much. Let's get back into the video. No! He's going. Well, are you gonna be calm? Yeah! Oh, look at this! Woo! Moving on to our second topic, we are going to get into topic number 2, and that is going to be the heating and lighting for your Tokay Gecko. This, of course, is going to be split into two things. Number one, the heating section. Now, Tokay Geckos come from a very hot and humid area. We'll get into the humidity a little later. That's step 3? I think that's the next one. Heating is going to be the first one we're talking about. Now, these guys like it hot, which is why I always recommend some sort of basking bulb. This can be done in a number of different ways. Your Par 38 floodlights, your reptile bulbs. However, due to recent legislation banning those bulbs and them becoming more and more scarce, the best alternative is either going to be a deep heat projector or something that we use over here, the ceramic heat emitter. While those are still legal in our United States government eyes, while the other ones aren't, make it make sense. Point is, the CHE is going to be a runner-up for it. It still produces that nice heat, that basking of around the 90 to 95 area that these geckos really enjoy. The only downside is going to be is it's going to sap the humidity out of your enclosure a lot faster than you would see with a regular basking bulb. If you can't find one, you can't find one. These are kind of going to be the next evolution we have with reptile keeping, unfortunately. You just have to miss a little bit more often. I seal part of the top screen with some plexiglass that Zen Habitats has. Kind of keeps the humidity in a little bit better. A couple of other options are going to be either a heat tape, but you really want to get like a radiant heat panel and then setting that on a thermostat to that 90 to 95 area. That way you're still going to have an animal where it can get that basking temperature of that optimal temp that we talked about, of the surface temperature being around 90 to 95. For heating is only one part of the equation. Of course, if you're using something like a CHE or radiant heat panel, it's just going to be a dimly lit enclosure, or not a lit enclosure at all, a dark box. And we don't want our Tokays in a dark box. That brings us to subsection 2 of the 2 topic, and that is the lighting section. When it comes to the lighting of the Tokay Gecko, UVB is optional, I guess I would say. Tokay Geckos can survive without UVB. They don't necessarily need it. However, it is beneficial for them. It helps them, the D3... Why do I break down D3 metabolize? It's good for the Tokay Gecko. That's why you see right here, I've got UVB on all of my breeder tanks going on. While it isn't needed, it's just something I apply a little extra. It gets a nice lighting in the enclosure as well. The Tokay Geckos do use it. I see them basking on the either basking in the UVB or basking in the little basking zone, either or, so they do utilize it. So I say, why not? It costs like 60 bucks a year to do it. Just give them a little UVB. If you're hell-bent on not providing UVB, maybe you're one of those UVB deniers and you think the sun is not real, I don't know, man, then you will need some sort of substitutional lighting to make sure that they are getting some sort of UVA ray. UVA rays are just any type of visible lighting that the human eye can see and also the reptile eye. So anything like your full spectrum lighting, LED lighting, like we do have some LEDs right here for some of our plants over there. Anything that produces light, so once again, they're not just in a black box, basically. Moving on, let's get into the third category at hand, and that is going to be number 3, the humidity levels you want for your Tokay Gecko. Humidity levels are the Tokay Gecko are going to be pretty easy. They want it humid. This is a tropical gecko hailing from Indonesia and more recently, Florida. Why are you guys in Florida? You shouldn't be there. You're causing problems to the native ecosystem down there. So with that being said, oh my god! You're going up. You're too much of a spaz. Your showtime's over. It's with all that being said, you are going to want your humidity levels somewhere between the 60 to 80% range. Now, when I say that, I don't mean consistently leaving your humidity at 73%, because it's in that range, we will always keep it at the 70%. That's not what I'm saying. You do want a sort of gradient going on with your humidity. That means when you mist, water the soil, have live plants, anything in there, that is going to spike that humidity up, let's say into the 80% range, and then throughout the day, it will slowly go down, dip until you get to about 60%, at which case you want to miss again and that'll go up. Kind of like a roller coaster. No one wants a roller coaster that just does this. That is the most boring thing I can think of. You want the loop-de-loops. I don't know how you do that with a gradient, but the up and down is cool too. Up and down, miss, don't miss, miss, don't miss, and you do that for around the 15 plus years that Tokay Geckos live for every single day until one of you just doesn't exist anymore. Get into the next topic. Alrighty, only a couple more to talk about, which is going to bring us to topic number 4, the diet of the crested gecko. Nope. The diet of the Tokay is going to be another pretty easy one, and that's the fact is they eat bugs. So you just gotta feed them bugs. What kind of bugs do you feed them? You can feed a variety of different ones, including roaches, lobster roaches, red runners, Dubai, the orange head roaches, you've got the crickets, you got the superworms, mealworms, waxworms, black soldier fly larvae, phoenix worms, tomato horned worms, silkworms, ants. Maybe not ants. At the end of the day, feed them insects. My tokays get a variety diet of mainly crickets, and then I do substitute the superworms or roaches in these dishes that they finally dish feed off of. Of course, your proper supplementation, that's being your multivitamin about once a month. Your calcium with D3 is going to be dependent on if you're providing UVB or not, and then obviously the calcium without D3 should be used in every meal that you provide for your animal. Alrighty, boys and girls, we're almost certified Tokay experts because we watched one YouTube video of a guy that said Tokay geckos were crustids about 2 minutes ago. However, we are not the Facebook certified expert yet because we still have one last category to get on, and that is going to be topic number 5, what to fill your enclosure with. Cool transition. I'm gonna be honest, it was a pretty mid transition. I wouldn't call it cool, to be exact. We could have done better. Now, we know what size enclosure we are gonna be using. It's gonna be Zen Habitats, linked down on the description to get yours today. We know the heating element we want. We know that we need to use UVB. We know how to properly mist this bad boy, and we know to throw bugs in there every so often with the proper supplementation. But what we don't know is we still have just an empty box. What do we fill it with? You put a couple of pebbles in there and maybe one of those old McDonald's toys and call it a day? No. Why would you think that? We're gonna start from the bottom up. So what you're gonna need at the bottom is going to be some sort of tropical substrate. Like we mentioned, these geckos come from the tropics. They love high humidity. You're going to want some sort of soil that is going to replicate that and be able to retain that humidity or the moisture to provide with evaporation. I'm not a scientist. I put geckos together and they give me babies. What do you want from me? So it can come in a variety of different things. The cocoa fiber, cocoa husk, cypress mulch, whatever the big box store names are. Or you could be using a bioactive ABG mix if you do want to go bioactive with your animals. You know who's a great source for bioactive stuff? It's me. I'm the great source. As you see, over at DakotaBlueExotics.com, you can get everything that you will possibly need for a bioactive enclosure. That includes your drainage layers, your substrates, your leaf litters, your cleanup crew, isopods, springtails, and then a variety of plants. Every which plant that you would want, we have. Unless it says out of stock, then we don't have it. It's a great place to get some bioactive stuff, and until July 25th, we are still having 15% off with using code geckos. That's gonna be geckos. Back to the video. After you have your substrates, you're gonna want some sort of climbing area. This is gonna be an arboreal gecko. Obviously, we have the 2 foot and then 2 foot high. You want that height because they like to climb. Now, you can get this in a variety of different stuff. We took a couple of branches that we both bought and then foraged ourselves. A lot of cork bark because we are a registered cork bark seller. You can find that over my website. We just have the cork bark tubes, cork bark. I use these PVC tubes. I am no longer doing that because if you're doing something like me and you are breeding a pretty large quantity of geckos, you don't want the PVC pipes. You can't get the gecko out of them. They're a huge hassle to do, very annoying. 0 out of 10 recommend. We actually took them out of that enclosure, and over the next year or so, we're gonna be just taking them all out. They've got the cork tubes. They don't need the PVC tubes. So going for like a naturalistic setup and like white PVC bolted in through what? It doesn't look natural. It's a little weird. Other than that, you're pretty good to go. For some sort of coverage, you're either going to want to use live plants or fake plants, whatever gets the job done. Just creating an area where the gecko feels secure and it feels like it can retreat to when it wants to not be seen by the giant god that is you. That's right, we're all gods. Pat yourself on the back. Not just because you're a god, but because you finished this video and are now a certified Facebook expert on Tokay geckos. That is going to wrap it up for today, folks. If you guys want to check out some more of our Tokay gecko content, we have a playlist with like 172.3 videos on the topic of tokays, or you can check out this Tokay gecko video. I'm not sure which one I'll put, but I know it'll have tokays, and it's probably me getting bit. And who doesn't want to see that? As always, thank you so much for taking the time in your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.